Naomi Alexander from Brighton People's Theatre. That's all I'm going to say, Naomi. I'll let you do the...
How do you get it to go into
Go to slideshow and then go right over from beginning, right over on the left-hand side. That's it.
Magic. Hello. My name's Naomi Alexander. I'm the director of a very, very, very new theatre company called Brighton People's Theatre. I sort of thought when I first said that I would speak today, we might be further along in our journey, but actually we're 5 weeks in. So it's really new what we're doing. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what we've done so far and a little bit about what we're hoping to do. And the title of my presentation is about From Anger to Action. And there are two things that I want to talk about really in terms of what is making me angry right now. One of those is around the way in which the theatre sector kind of privileges white middle class people and those stories sort of structurally. And the other is around austerity and the way in which austerity is having a really terrible impact on my hometown of Brighton. So I will start off with this fab quote from Baz Kershaw. I'll read it to you. A theatre building is not so much the empty space of the creative artist, nor a democratic institution of free speech, but rather a kind of social engine that helps to drive an unfair system of privilege. The theatre achieves this through ensnaring every kind of audience in a web of mostly unacknowledged values, tacit commitments to forces that are beyond their control, and mechanisms to ensure that most people stay away. And even though Baz Kershaw wrote that in 1999, we know that from the Arts Council's own data, its taking part data, that this is in fact the case, and most people do stay away from publicly subsidised theatres. The Oxford University sociologists did some analysis of the taking part data and found that if you have high educational attainment or high social status, that makes you most likely to participate in the theatre. And last year, the Warwick Commission's report into cultural value found that it was the most white, most wealthy, most well-educated 8% of the population who are the main producers and consumers of publicly subsidised theatre. I think that's not okay. I think that's a social justice issue. At a time of austerity, when the cuts are hitting the poorest hardest, I just don't get why most money, public money, is being put into the work that mainly white middle class people want to make and want to see, that they are getting the opportunity to play in a time when there's not a lot of play around. And I feel like the opportunity to play and explore and discover life through theatre should be available to everyone. There was a report out recently, it popped up on my Twitter feed, that said that 73% of actors come from middle class backgrounds. Darren Henley, the Chief Executive of the Arts Council, was quoted recently as saying that creative talent is everywhere but opportunity is not. And that's something that I really believe in the work that I have done working with all sorts of communities, that there is a lot of creative talent, but the way in which the production and consumption of theatre is so socially stratified, it means that those opportunities for people to be creative are just not in existence, certainly not in Brighton. So I want to talk about my badge. I've got a slightly blurred close-up of it here. It says sometimes if you want something to exist, you have to make it yourself. And I found this really helpful. This came in the post to me because I started making monthly donations to an amazing organisation called Arts Emergency. If you haven't heard of them, I'd recommend going onto their website. So I give a monthly donation to them. They match working class young people who've got a talent in any of art form with mentors who have kind of made it, I guess, in the industry. And their sort of strapline is creating privilege where there is no privilege. And I really believe in what they do, but also this badge for me is like a really helpful reminder of the power that we do have. Because I think very often in the face of all this stuff, in the face of socially stratified things that feel insurmountable, it's easy to feel a bit overwhelmed and to feel that actually I can't do anything to change this. but I think we can, and I think we can build alternative models. So setting up Brighton People's Theatre is an attempt, a very small attempt, and we're at the start of the journey to try and disrupt the socially stratified way that theatre is made and consumed. Lynn Gardner talks about the importance of theatre makers co-creating work with local communities, and I guess that's where I'm at. I really believe that. I really believe that that is an important way of disrupting the way that theatre's made. And she talks about this becoming like the core of theatre, of what theatre is about in the future, and I'm totally with her on that. For me, doing Brighton People's Theatre is not about saying, come along to this theatre project, it might do you good. It's not about theatre as therapy. I think there's a place for that, but that's not what we're about. It's about enabling people to realise their own creative talent and enabling people to realise the potential of theatre and the potential of the place of theatre in society, for us to have our conversations about what it is to live in this society through theatre. Alan Lane from Slung Low has written a brilliant blog where he talks about the fact that the theatres belong to all of us, but it's not natural for us to think about the theatres belonging to us the way that we think about the NHS belonging to us, or our national parks belonging to us, or the BBC belonging to us, or our schools belonging to us. The theatres do actually belong to us, and that's what I want Brighton People's Theatre to be about, is about trying to find that locally and trying to kind of, for people that are into it, because not everyone's going to be into theatre, but people who are, to really feel that sense of ownership. So, thinking about what we're doing at the moment, the other thing that I'm really angry about is about austerity and the impact that austerity is having on the lives of people around me. I think that austerity is an ideological assault on the poor. I think it's a sham for an ideological rolling back of the state, and I feel really angry about it, and I feel quite powerless a lot of the time to do anything. And I was watching the Channel 4 News back in, I can't remember when it was, when the Syriza came to power, and Jon Snow was interviewing two middle-aged women in Athens and asking them, how do you think this change came about? How do you think that this has happened, that people have voted Syriza into power? And they had lots of answers as to why there'd been this kind of shift in consciousness to elect this anti-austerity party. And one of the women said it was because of the people's theatres. There were lots and lots of theatres that went around Athens making plays about austerity and getting people to talk about the impact of austerity on their lives, and I think that that's what made the change. Now, I'm not saying that one little play in Brighton is going to bring down the government at all, as much as I might like it to. That's not going to happen, but if it can start people expressing the political and the social and the emotional effects of austerity in a way that's enjoyable and challenging, and in a way that actually enables us to recognise the reality of what's going on in people's lives, then that would be brilliant. Brighton is not Greece. The way in which austerity is impacting on people's lives is nothing like how it is in Greece. I'm aware of that. But it is in the top 10% of places nationally that are worst affected by austerity. It has a kind of image of being extremely wealthy. That is true. But there is also extreme poverty right by it. It's a tale of two cities. And so what I have done in order to kickstart this project, looking at exploring austerity in the city, is I formed a partnership with two very different organisations. So the first, and that's where you see the poster there, is with the Brighton Unemployed Centre Families Project. It's an amazing little voluntary organisation in the centre of the city, in the centre of the former slum area. It works supporting long-term unemployed people in the city, many of whom have mental health problems and substance misuse problems. They place as much emphasis on running classes in Zumba and yoga and Spanish and creative writing as alongside welfare advice. As part of the funding that I got from the Arts Council to work there, we provide a free lunch for everyone who comes along to all of the sessions. There's a free creche, and everyone's bus fare is reimbursed who comes along to the sessions, because we think it's really important that poverty is not a barrier to people accessing the project. So that's the Brighton Unemployed Centre Families Project. The other organisation that I've gone into partnership with is the Brighton Dome Festival. They've come on board as a partner. And so it's been amazing. So over the last 5 weeks, we've run 10 open workshops, 2 a week, every Tuesday at the Unemployed Centre and every Thursday at the Brighton Dome. We've had more and more people coming along every single session. It's been incredibly moving and funny, and we've made songs. We've written songs about David Cameron, and written a song called Disunited Kingdom about, yeah, you can imagine. It's been really, really good fun. We have now got to the stage where we formed a company. So here we are on the main stage of the Brighton Dome a couple of weeks ago. It's been really interesting going from the Unemployed Centre on a Tuesday to the Dome on a Thursday and seeing people's relationship with those spaces changing. Out of the 10 people who are in the core company, none of them have done any drama since they left school in the 1980s or earlier. They're all in their 40s, 50s and 60s, apart from one person who is a gardener in Brighton. The last time she did drama was in the late 80s when she was a member of 784 in Glasgow. So that's really exciting for me. But everyone else, they're coming at it completely new. They've not done any theatre at all. Yesterday, we decided that we're going to concentrate on these 3 themes for our research. I'll just talk a little bit about them. So obviously there's the impact of the cuts and all of the issues that go along with that, in terms of people talking about the need to choose between heating or eating, about what it feels like to actually go into a food bank, about the impact of living with absolute poverty. But they were really keen that those personal stories were interlinked with an understanding of capitalism, neoliberal capitalism, and the real inequality between rich and poor, and this sort of seemingly unstoppable desire of corporations to put profit over people, and that the economy is more important than humanity, and really wanting to understand that and linking that in with the media, and this sham, this story that we're being fed that austerity is necessary, which, you know, we know to be untrue, and to put that somehow within the historical context of the Victorian sense of the deserving and the undeserving poor. So this is like our starting point of where we're doing the research. We got into 3 groups around each of these, and we started looking at all the different possible source material that we could go to for each of these, and they've gone off in their 3 groups to start to bring that into different sessions. I'm then going to be working with them to create drama exercises around those, that we start to develop a piece. We're using Islington Community Theatre's process. We're following their process that they use for Brainstorm, which is at National Theatre in the summer. So we're using that as a kind of framework for how we work through it. So we're going to be deciding, by Christmas, we're going to be deciding on the gesture of the piece, like what we want the audience to feel, what we want to do to the audience. We're hoping that we'll make them laugh. We think we might make them cry, and we definitely want to make them angry, because I think anger can be quite a productive force for good. So yeah, just a little bit more to say. We are aiming for, we're aiming to create 10 minutes worth of work in progress that we show at the Brighton Dome in February, and then from that we want to carry on working to create an hour-long show that we tour to every community centre across the city as part of a good night out. Probably this time next year. We think we're going to work together for a year before we get a show that's robust enough, and for them to become robust enough as performers to be able to operate in those kinds of environments, because it will be very live, which I think is what is so fantastic about theatre. But they need to feel confident with the material and confident as performers. Long term, what I really want to do, I don't envisage that every show is going to be about austerity. what I'm envisaging is that we will work with different communities over the years, and that once people have been through the process of creating a show, they will become part of the core company, who we would like to then train and work with so that they can become paid equity minimum, and that shows are created by the people from Brighton for the people of Brighton, that really reflects their concerns and their hopes and their dreams. I'm just going to finish with this photograph, which I took of the group looking at, we had a backstage tour of the Dome, and so this is an image of the Dome concert hall that was taken in the 1930s, just before the concert hall was refurbished. And you'll see in the middle that there's this incredible chandelier. It's not there anymore, because the story goes that we were told that the workers who refurbished the Dome all took a piece of the chandelier, and that if you go around council houses around Brighton, you can see a piece of the chandelier on different people's mantelpieces. And I quite like that story, because it means that this theatre, part of this theatre at least, already belongs to the people of Brighton. And so, yeah, we're working to try and create something that hopefully will be loved and owned by the people of the city for years to come. Thank you very much for listening. There's my contact details. Please keep in touch.